Good evening and welcome to the Jeremiah Patterson Show. Thank you for joining me tonight for a special report. I do not typically work on the weekends, but in light of what's currently happening right now, it is imperative to get on camera and to report the news here. The raids happened at lunch hour. It was on February 26, 1931 that the Los Angeles County Welfare Department, ICE agents, and police all descended on this spot right here. It's La Placita Park, and immediately they surrounded the park and started detaining anyone who looked Mexican. It was a massive, massive raid at the time. They did this without probable cause or arrest warrants. About 400 people were arrested that day and made national headlines at the time. And even though this was illegal, the Los Angeles City Council said in a memo, quote, "This isn't about constitutional validity, it's about the color of their skin." And so it was on that basis that local and federal immigration officers were using to quite literally illegally deport anyone in this country, including legal citizens. We do not care if you're born here, if you're a naturalized citizen, or even if you are a legal resident of this country. We are going to deport you because we do not like the color of your skin. Completely xenophobic. And this happened at a time called Mexican repatriation in this country, where per President Herbert Hoover's orders, Mexicans were rounded up and deported en masse. They were blamed for taking jobs away from real Americans, and that's the real reason we're in a Great Depression. Completely vitriolic and racist. But this is how the infamous La Placita raid transpired. They were just targeting people indiscriminately. It was a horrific sight at the time, terrifying the whole community. But the resistance in LA as a response to those terrorizing raids by federal immigration officers and also local law enforcement assisting them was massive. Local Mexican-American attorneys immediately, and also community leaders, condemned the raid as unconstitutional and racially discriminatory, and some people even attempted to challenge the legality of those detentions and deportations. The Mexican consulate in Los Angeles protested the treatment of Mexican nationals and tried to advocate for those being deported. Churches, mutual aid societies, and Mexican hometown associations tried to provide shelter, food, and legal help for affected families. Some labor groups and progressive activists, particularly those involved with the Communist Party USA, spoke out against the deportations and the racist motivations behind them. It was essentially responding to that massive raid at La Placita Park that transpired by saying, okay, yes, this has happened in our community, but how's our community going to respond? How's our community going to show up in this moment? In 2025, we are facing our own 1930s round up the immigrants moment, as this president is surrounded by some of the most vicious, vile-minded people in orchestrating the kidnapping, arrest, and deportation without due process of hundreds of thousands of immigrants and legal residents in this country. Yesterday in Los Angeles, ICE conducted multiple raids at stores, restaurants, and court buildings. They also went to Home Depot. According to the New York Times, the raids began at a clothing store at about 9:15 a.m. PST in what was an extraordinary show of force. Quote, "Dozens of federal agents wearing helmets and green camouflage arrived in two hulking armored trucks and other unmarked vehicles and were soon approached by a crowd of immigration activists and supporters. Some agents carried riot shields and others held rifles, as well as shotguns that appeared to be loaded with less than lethal ammunition. More than 100 people were arrested at 3 locations in Los Angeles after Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers executed 4 federal search warrants, according to federal officials. The operation drew immediate criticism from officials in Los Angeles, a Democratic-led city and a county where more than 30% of residents are immigrants. Quote, "As mayor of a proud city of immigrants who contribute to our city, in so many ways, I am deeply angered by what has taken place," Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles said in a statement, adding, quote, "My office is in close coordination with immigration rights, community organizations. We will not stand for this." End quote. The U.S. attorney for Los Angeles is this guy, Bill Esley. He previously was a Republican member of the Assembly in Riverside County. in California. But in April of this year, he was appointed by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi to be the top federal prosecutor in Los Angeles. And so these raids that happened yesterday, in LA, these raids were of his doing. This was him speaking on local NBC4 LA News.
There is a nationwide effort to enforce our immigration laws, and there's a step up in enforcement. This is part of that effort. The particular raids you're referencing, my office prepared search warrants for particular businesses where there was probable cause that they're using fictitious documents to employ people. And those warrants were signed by a federal judge, and they were executed on Friday.
Would you say that there's a lot of that taking place, not just in California, but I mean in terms of downtown, but in the farm fields of the Central Valley?
Well, unfortunately, these laws haven't really been enforced for a long time. The prior administration did not enforce these. We have filed just this year 500 felony cases for illegal reentry. The prior administration didn't really do that at all. So you're seeing a step up of enforcement across the federal government on a lot of areas and laws that just were ignored.
So once again, that is the pro-Trumper Republican installed U.S. District Attorney in L.A. right now, and he approved these raids, essentially saying, yeah, you know, the last administration didn't do their job, so we're going to do our job this time, and this is what's happening. What was that happened in La Placita Park back in the 30s? We don't care about constitutional validity. We're targeting them for the color of their skin. That's why we're going after them. There has been major pushback to these raids. Law enforcement, of course, is being met with protesters who are vocally in opposition to this. These were some pictures from yesterday. But of course, things were not always peaceful, as you can see in these pictures here provided by Reuters, of the visceral scene of what's going on in LA right now. This is a video here from the Washington Post. These are scenes here of protesters being, of course, attacked by law enforcement, shot at. We have reports of tear gas, of course. But this is what's currently happening in the city of Los Angeles right now. David Huerta, the president of a local Californian union, used his body to block a vehicle, an ICE vehicle. He was arrested. Bill Esley, of course, the U.S. District Attorney in L.A., posted this on his social media account, quote, "Let me be clear, I don't care who you are. If you impede federal agents, you will be arrested and prosecuted. No one has the right to assault, obstruct, or interfere with federal authorities carrying out their duties." That arrest has been condemned by LA city officials and Governor Gavin Newsom. The New York Times reports that vehicles were blocked by protesters and eggs as well as other objects were thrown at the vehicles. This is how agents responded a short time later. Quote, "A short time later, as officers boarded their vehicles to leave, a few agents lobbed flash grenades at groups of people who chased alongside the slow-moving convoy." According to LAist.com, at least 45 people were arrested, and at one point, more than 300 people marched to surround the federal detention center there as a standoff happened. Mayor Karen Bass said, quote, "To every immigrant living in our city, we see you, we stand with you, and we will fight for you. Los Angeles will continue to be a place that values and dignifies every human being, no matter who they are or where they come from." These were scenes today in Paramount, California, about 20 miles from Los Angeles, as the standoff between federal and local law enforcement and civilians vehemently against it continues. These scenes here, of course, showing what is currently happening right now in the city of Los Angeles. I will say today, while I've been reporting here, the chief of police for LA, Jim McDonnell, has put out a statement essentially saying that the LAPD is not going to cooperate with ICE This is directly from that statement here. Quote, today the LAPD became aware that federal law enforcement agencies conducted activities in the city of Los Angeles. I'm aware that these actions cause anxiety for many Angelenos. So I want to make it clear, the LAPD is not involved in civil immigration enforcement. While the LAPD will continue to have a visible presence in all our communities to ensure public safety, we will not assist or participate in any sort of mass deportations, nor will the LAPD try to determine an individual's immigration status. Since 1979, our policy has barred officers from initiating police actions solely to determine a person's immigration status. The department remains focused on critical issues like crime reduction, enhancing public safety, and improving the quality of life for all Angelenos. I want everyone, including our immigrant community, to feel safe calling the police in their time of need and know that the LAPD will be there for you without regard to one's immigration status. End quote. So once again, that is a statement of support, not only a statement of support to the immigrant community, but essentially a statement of assurance to local Angelenos right now who are continuing to protest what is happening there. The Attorney General of the United States and the Secretary of Homeland Security, though, feel differently. These were their statements put out today. Quote, this is AG Pam Bondi. It doesn't matter if you're a judge, a member of Congress, or a protester in Los Angeles. If you obstruct or assault a law enforcement officer, this Department of Justice will prosecute you. This is from Secretary Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary. A message to the LA riders: you will not stop us or slow down. ICE will continue to enforce the law, and if you lay a hand on a law enforcement officer, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Of course, their definition of laying a hand on immigration officers varies, given them trying to go after Democratic Congresswoman LaMonica McIver from New Jersey. You have people right now in the conservative movement essentially saying that the National Guard needs to be called in. The White House is calling what's happening in LA an insurrection. That's ironic, given the fact that you literally have an insurrectionist sitting in the White House who, after losing the results of the 2020 presidential election, incited an insurrection against the United States government on January 6, 2021. Multiple law enforcement officers were injured, including some deaths from law enforcement as a result of that violent insurrection by his domestic terrorist supporters. So we're seriously going to call what's happening in LA an insurrection? Okay, sure. Because if we are, this is the stark contrast that we are facing here. This is the stark contrast. It's not just LA, though. It's also in Lower Manhattan. In Lower Manhattan, New York, we're seeing a very similar scene. According to ABC 7 News, at least 17 people have been arrested outside the Federal Plaza there. Now, the reason those protests are happening in New York is because of this video here, in which Joaquin Rosario Espinal was violently detained after his immigration case was dismissed. Of course, this is part of a larger movement, a new tactic by ICE agents in which they are waiting outside courtrooms to arrest migrants. After his immigration case was dismissed, this was ICE essentially forcibly detaining him.
Wait a minute. Jesus.
Get off, guys. You're obstructing a federal arrest. Obstructing a federal arrest. Get on the ground. Get back. Get back. Get back. Back up. Stop fighting. Stop resisting. Stop fighting. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Hey, arrest us. Hey, get the fuck back. Get back. Get the fuck back. Back up. Back up. Back up. Back up. No, give me one of the Hey, Reese, ma'am, back up. What, you back? Hey, back up. All right. Look, señor, hermano ahora. Ya. Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
He's not fucking resisting.
I'll get him. Get him up.
What is wrong?
You gotta get
Back up. Just give us space.
You gotta get back.
You can get pinched. Just get
Get off
back.
his leg. Get up. I'm trying. Get FPS up there. Get FPS up here.
Watch out. Just watch out.
You gotta get back.
Just try to get something off the ground.
You gotta get back. You gotta get back.
Someone get his name. What's his name and a contact of the left?
Guys, move. Everybody get out of the way. Move. Stay back. Stay back.
I'm a citizen. Get the other person's name. It's more important.
Back up. Back up.
Earlier this week, it was a Southern California student. This fourth grader here, just 9 years old, and his father, detained at their immigration hearing, will now be deported back to Honduras. I should tell you that while we've been on the air here recording on the Jeremiah Patterson Show tonight, the Trump administration is going to be deploying the National Guard to California. This is a statement from the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Quote, "In recent days, violent mobs have attacked ICE officers and federal law enforcement agents carrying out basic deportation operations in Los Angeles, California. These operations are essential to halting and reversing the invasion of illegal criminals into the United States. In the wake of this violence, California's feckless Democratic leaders have completely abdicated their responsibility to protect their citizens. That is why President Trump has signed a presidential memorandum deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen to address the lawlessness that has been allowed to fester. The Trump administration has a zero-tolerance policy for criminal behavior and violence, especially when that violence is aimed at law enforcement trying to do their jobs. These criminals will be arrested and swiftly brought to justice. The commander-in-chief will ensure the laws of the United States are executed fully and completely." End quote. Once again, the White House is deploying the National Guard against civilians in the state of California. They are deploying the National Guard here. Donald Trump he's overstepping the governor of California to deploy the National Guard. There was talk in Project 2025 about the Insurrection Act, about martial law, and Donald Trump has recently signed a slew of executive orders regarding to strengthening, essentially, law enforcement against the civilians in this country, and we are seeing that being fulfilled right now. And yes, it is horrifying, I get that. But it should not scare us or cower us into capitulating under this authoritarian presidency in which he truly does think that he is more powerful than the people and that the people of this country will not resist, that the people of this country will just lie down and they will falter. We will give in to an authoritarian regime. That is not going to happen here. Resistance always wins. In the streets through protest. Mass resistance always defeats authoritarianism. Mass resistance always defeats authoritarianism. Never forget that. Because when the history books are written on this time, this moment in America, they will include every single person, every single decision, every single entity that enabled this president and the vile actions of his administration. But they will also include you in what you did in this moment. Were you part of the pro-authoritarian fascistic regime, or were you part of the pro-democracy side? Did you stand up for your fellow Americans, whether that was in protest, whether that was in supporting organizations that are pro-democracy and defending institutions? Because we know that in a democratic republic, institutions cannot defend themselves. It has to be civilians to defend institutions as well. It's going to be, what did you do in this moment? Yes, Donald Trump tonight has effectively, sent the National Guard to the state of California, deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen to address, quote, the lawlessness that has been allowed to fester. They were waiting to do this. They were waiting for this moment. And now it is happening. What they're counting on you for tonight, though, is that you will cower, you will be scared, You will capitulate to this administration so that therefore we can collectively as a country embrace an authoritarian regime and no longer accept the fact that we still can fight for this country, that we still can fight for our democratic rights. We still can fight for the Constitution of this country, which gives all of us rights, due process, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom to bear arms. It is those truths, it is those rights protected under our Constitution that separate us apart from other countries like North Korea, that separate us from other countries like Russia, that separate us apart from other countries like Hungary, where we are a democratic republic, where the citizens of this country do get to vote, where the citizens of this country do get to protest, and we have freedom of the speech, we have freedom of the religion. Those rights are so sacred. And institutions alone cannot defend those rights. You have to defend those rights yourself as well. This is a moment that is going to collectively count on all of us to stand up for what we believe and we know is right. Otherwise, we risk losing it completely. In the face of someone who thinks he has unilateral control, in the face of someone who thinks he can bypass the legislative branch, and someone who thinks he can bypass the judicial branch and to defy court rulings because he himself is all powerful. This is a moment in where the citizens have to be louder and more united than the movement that is set to destroy us completely. Coalesce with one another. Stay strong. As I always say, eyes open, heads up, stay focused. They are trying to deter us. They are trying to silence us. They are trying to end this democratic experiment completely. But are we going to let them? Are we going to cower in afraidness? Or are we going to stand up and fight back? Tomorrow, we're going to be airing part 1 of a special report, a 2-part special report that we're covering on the Jeremiah Patterson Show about resistance, the resistance movement in this country. Part 1 is going to focus on what is happening at the VA in terms of budget cuts and massive firings. And part 2 is going to be about the resistance movement at the local and national level. That one essentially is going to be about the resistance movement in this country that is taking form here. Stay strong, guys. Stay strong. They are trying to ruin us. They are trying to flood the zone. They are trying to overwhelm us. Get your rest. Stay hydrated. Stay fed. Eyes open, heads up, stay focused. Only focus on what is important. They are trying to distract us with other small things that do not matter, that are nonsensical. Stay focused on what is most important. Read your local journalism so you know that what's going on in your own backyard. Because there are many Republican states in this country that are trying to institute little tiny authoritarian regimes to emulate what is happening at the federal level. Pay attention to what's happening in your own backyard. Pay attention to who's running in your local seats. Pay attention to who's running for Congress. Pay attention to what your governor is doing. Pay attention to what your state legislator is doing. Are they doing anything that is going to effectively curtail the rights of LGBTQ plus people in your state, in your city? Are they doing anything that's going to affect minorities? What's happening in your own state? What's happening in your own backyard? Pay attention to that. They are counting on you to be misinformed. They are counting on you not to be educated. They are counting on you not to watch your local journalism or to support independent journalism, because independent journalism is far more honest. It is more rigorous. It is more concise and direct, because we are going to continue to hold the powerful accountable. Mass resistance defeats authoritarianism. Remember that. Remember that tonight. No authoritarian movement on this earth has ever lasted because the people always rise up and fight back. Mass resistance defeats authoritarianism, and tonight they are counting on you not to know that. They are counting on you not to know the history. They are counting on you not to be educated on how we can move together to defeat this. So eyes open, heads up, stay focused. They want you to lose hope. They want you to capitulate. Resist. If you're a fan of the Jeremiah Patterson Show and you enjoyed this video, please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, as well as, comment any suggestions, your questions, your thoughts on this video. Please share this video with your family and friends. It's very, very important. You can also support us by donating financially, as this is independent journalism, and we do rely on your donations to continue this crucial work. Another way you can support me is by becoming a paid subscriber to my Substack at tjpsnews for just $7.99 a month or $75 a year. I will see you again tomorrow, and then Monday through Friday for a full week of news coverage here. Be sure to follow me on Blue Sky and Substack at tjpsnews. If you have any questions, a news topic request, or want to do a collaboration, you can email me, tjpsnews@gmail.com. Tag me in anything that you're seeing if you want me to cover it here on the show. I am always open to doing that. This is independent journalism. It is grassroots supported. I appreciate your support and your donations and your paid subscriptions to this show. Eyes open, heads up, stay focused. Stay focused here.